we'll get right into it. Please welcome Ken Strain.
Let me just make sure. Oh yeah, there it is. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much for Chris. Big hand to Chris because he made this happen. You know, I threatened to do a class, and Chris was like, "Yeah, do it." All right. Okay, Chris, you got me. I'll do it. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got into sound, because basically I was a young teenager, you know, and I was lazy kid working at Home Depot, you know, and I had my godparents had a pool, lived nearby. I'd go to their house, and my godparents' daughter went to CSUN. Her study partner was a sound mixer during the summer holidays. And I thought, well, that's interesting. What is a sound mixer? And he goes, you know, we record sound for films and stuff like that. That's cool. Prior to that, this show in my high school came to my high school and shot a pilot. It was called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And they took over my whole high school. And I was just like, whoa, this is so technical and cool. Everybody has different jobs. I kind of geeked out. And, you know, I thought I might want to do that. So I went to Valley College for film school, which, you know, I honestly didn't want to look at black and white films of, you know, baby strollers going downstairs. I wanted to work, you know, I wanted to get on a set. So a friend of mine and I were like, why don't we go be an extra? So we signed up at, what is that big extra? Central Casting, and we got sent out to work on the Tina Turner movie. There's this big comeback concert. And basically it was a, you know, period part, and she's like, what's love got to do? And I see this guy. Let me just demonstrate what I saw. Speed. 14 hours. The playback day, right? And I was like looking at this guy, and I'm like, I could do that. I see all these guys working their ass off. And I was always trying to figure out what is the easiest job. Like I worked at Target, what is the easiest job? Then I worked at Home Depot, what is the easiest job? I always figured out the easiest job, you know? What will give me the least amount of customers to deal with? So I see this guy and I'm like, oh, I got your number, man. So I walked over to him and I was like, what is your job? And he goes, boom operator. And I'm like, boom operator. All right, great. So then I find out that my godparents' daughter's friend is a sound mixer who needs a boom operator. I'm like, we need to talk. And so we did, and he goes, yeah, I've been going to Poland in the summertime and doing these, you know, movies, and I'm like, Poland? Wow, that sounds so exotic. I'm just some kid from the valley. So pretty soon, I got fired from Home Depot for snowboarding, and then jerks. I mean, come on, it's New Year's Day. Why should I be there? And then a couple months later, I went water skiing with some friends all day, and then I get home, and on my answering machine, remember those? I had like 5 messages from this guy going, hey, can you come in like tonight, like tonight? Can you get there by 6 p.m.? It's in downtown LA, in a loft. I'm doing a movie. My boom operator can't continue. I'll train you. Okay, very desperate. And I'm like, yeah, why not? I've been, you know, playing all day, sunburned, tired, but I'll come in for a few hours. I had no idea. And it's, you know, no budget, everyone's volunteering. So I show up and, you know, this guy's so happy to see me, and he goes, here's the boom, there's aluminum boom pole, 416 on it, hard lighting, lit for contrast, black and white, and the first scene is somebody in bed just waking up and just looking at the alarm and saying like one word, I get in there, and I'm like, yeah, I got this. And he goes, that sounded great. Nothing was that easy after that. Then he was like, you know, 2 or 3 feet extension. I'm a mess of cables, I have no idea how to manage my cables. Pouring sweat, there's no air conditioning in this loft. My glasses are like this, the whole crew's laughing at me. Thank God I lived at home with my parents. I was like, otherwise, and I was just a kid, when you're a teenager and this is what you want to do, you're like, I'm not going to give up. Because if I was 35 and I showed up to that scene, I'd be like, not my thing, really. So he goes, you did great. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, come back tomorrow. Okay. Well, I kept coming back, and then, this is what happened. About the 7th day, and this is how I'm booming everything. I'll just tell you, I'm booming everything like this. Everything. I forgot I'm 6'5". I'm booming everything like this. Camera's right next to me. And they had no money for coverage, so they were doing like long masters with no coverage. And I reached a point where I'm sitting there, and I'm not even there a very long extension, but my arms, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And the shot's got another page and a half to go. And I'm like, oh God, oh shit. I'm gonna survive. And I locked my arms like this. I'm like, okay, I'll just lock my arms and get through this. Well, I locked my arms. I got through it. Then I went over to craft service, and this is what happened. Pretend this is a cup of Coke. I pour a little cup of Coke, and this is what happened. I have no idea how this happened, but somehow locking my arms pinched a nerve in my arm. For the next 2 months, I could not lift anything more than a glass of water with my right arm. But I could still do this. So I didn't give up. So that was a good lesson in why this is not grit. But I didn't, that was sort of my first sense, maybe I should try something else. So I continued with this mixer. We did non-union stuff. And by the way, that mixer is Steve Thibault from Modern Family. So we're he's like an older brother to me, and I still work for him. I come in and day play with him. William Monroe over there works for him. So he's a wonderful, wonderful man, incredible mixer. And we were like kids, He didn't know. I didn't know. We were just, doing two-man thing, just struggling. I have to boom everything. The wires was last resort, planting mics. And I'm a kid, so I think I'm a badass. So I'm like, can you do this on the boom? Yes. Even if I really could, I'm like, I can do this, So I think I was fearless. I threw myself into this crazy shit that I would never do now, because I could not replicate those kinds of results. But, you don't know better, and you're trying to make it happen. And then I got into the union in about, I think it was 96. I should really know this, but it was a long time ago. But I got in thanks to Brian Cahill, who brought me on Courthouse as my very first third job. And that was my, first time on a union soundstage too. So I learned, I was the new guy, and everybody definitely let me know. So that was good. And then, so Brian Cahill was probably my first mentor. He was mixing second units on Power Rangers, and so he would, coach me and show me stuff. And so he was a very good influence for me. And that guy's strong as hell. And then he really makes the most of his strength and lack of height. But and then after that, this mixer named Charlie Kelly brought me on a show called Sliders, and Dennis Fuller was the boom operator on that, and he was my next mentor. He told me he had been booming for 13 or 14 years, and I was wide-eyed. I'm like, that long? Wow. So, I picked his brain and learned a lot from him. And then, I just started, the thing is, I'm working for these short guys, and I'm building apple box trails and bringing ladders all the time, and I'm just like, well, shouldn't I be, doing that? I've been doing it for 4 years. I mean, why don't I've got apple boxes built in. So I, forayed into being the boom operator, and we're bouncing around for different guys, and that's basically what I've done. I went back to work for Steve Thibault, worked with him for a while, then started day playing for years. One of the best moves ever, day playing, because you get to learn so much when you move around and work with different people. You pick up so many tricks, and you build your contacts. You start having a really wide network of people that if you're good and you try, they'll remember you and they'll call you, That's the thing. You just get out there and meet people and work for different people. So that's what I've done. I worked on house for 5 years with Von Varga. That was a great experience. And then I told Vaughn, I'm like, when that show's done, I'm like, I want to do comedies. I don't want to do any more. I don't want to memorize any more medical dialogue. I'm done. I don't want to keep seeing House figure it out at minute 51. So we started doing comedies, shows that were, one season done kind of thing. And that's kind of what I've been doing. It's bouncing around since then. I moved to New York because of my girlfriend. The union there's closed for a long time, so I kind of had to come back. So I came back with Jay Patterson last year. This has been a very interesting year this last year. I've done 4 different shows, completely different shows. So I came back, did I'm Dying Up Here with Jay, which was a great experience, and it was with Chris Manning as our third. And that was what I enjoyed about that show is that it was a old school boom operator show. We boomed as much as we could. We planted as much as we could with what we call the sneaky six, our quick throw it in 2 seconds rig, which I will, demonstrate. He brought this in to show you. Literally, this thing could be ready to go anywhere in like a minute. So speed is of the essence. And so that was really fun to do this, a show where it was a traditional boom it, because the headroom tended to be quite, favorable, and we were really good with working with camera, getting common headroom, and that was great. Then I tried being a third for 3 weeks on American Crime, because I wanted to get that perspective, right? If I'm gonna teach a class, and I knew I was going to, I wanted to step into the third shoes and see what they had to deal with, because they got to boom, but they got to do all this other shit. I am a lousy third. But I warn people that anytime someone says, hey, you mind thirding? I'm like, if you're hiring me to third, you're only hiring me to boom, because I am so bad at all the other stuff. I really try, but I just don't have a head for it. Keep turning in time cards at the end of the night. I'm like having them unlock the truck at the end of the night so I can grab the time cards and I'm horrible. But I can wire people and I can boom people, and that seems to matter more. So that's kind of also the point of this class, because that does matter. Booming matters. So when thirds say, booming's not really my thing, I'm like, well, why should I use you then? Because to me, that is so important. And then I started with Von Varga on Get Shorty. So we did Get Shorty in Albuquerque in LA I did 6 episodes, and there was a turn of events on that show where Von's third had to leave due to health problems, and the boom operator that was supposed to come in, and I was supposed to leave, he agreed to be the third, Javier Hernandez. This was amazing. Having a boom operator of Javier's caliber be my third was like sick. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I didn't have to think about a thing. That guy, and he was a great third, that is also amazing. So props to him, but he doesn't want to be thought of as a third, so please don't think of him as a third. So we did that show, kind of, we started out trying to boom as much as we could and wire less, and then we just ended up having to wire all the time because the frames were constantly being messed with, and it just wasn't easy to stick with the boom. We wanted to, we couldn't. Then I flew to Hawaii and did Inhumans. And that show was a lot of weird wardrobe, and it was always wire. 3 cameras. It started out on IMAX, frames all over the place, basically a big middle finger to sound, and they were like, this is the tone of the show. And I was with Bobby Anderson, and he's very adamant about booming and then wiring if you have to. And then he had to capitulate, and we upped our wiring game, so I actually got better at wiring, if that's possible. We actually tackled so many wardrobe situations on that show, and we didn't have a very strong second boom. So I had to wire everyone perfectly because that was the second boom. And he agreed that, like, this is your wiring is the second boom. Okay, so, that's reality. So that's kind of the reality. You see the show you're on, and you adjust to it, If it's a wire show, it's a wire show. Live with it. Get the wires as best as you possibly can. because it is important, and that's how it is now. And I watched on the airplane the other day. I watched Batman from 1989, Tim Burton, and there was many scenes where it got kind of wide, and you can really hear that perspective and the echo. And you know what? I didn't like it. It sounded kind of weird and muddled, and they were making the right choices, but it didn't sound good. I think our ears have changed, and now we kind of expect to hear the voice clearly, but we do want to add in some, ambience to make it seem natural, even though it's not totally natural. It just sounds, we want to hear them talk. The producers are right at the end. We just want to hear them talk. So, let's see. That's it for the introduction. Now I want to start with equipment.